Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. Got a couple of new arrivals that are greeting the new day in high spirits. The impala lambs are dashing around like absolute maniacs this morning. Look at it bounce. That's amazing. A couple of days ago they were just wobbly little creatures on spindly legs, and now they're almost as fast as the adults. Something that always absolutely boggles my brain. Anyway, a warm, well, actually it's a bit of a cloudy welcome to all of you. My name is Jamie and I have Andrew on camera with me this morning. Brent is out and about on Wendy along with the wildebeest, Wiem. And we have a fantastic morning safari planned for you. We're going to go and see if we can follow up on where Shadow was last seen yesterday afternoon. Shadow the leopard for new viewers. And for new viewers, this is a live safari. So everything that you're seeing is happening right here in real time on Djuma and Arathusa game reserves in the Sabi Sands. And we're also interactive. So if you have any questions, and we'd love to hear from you, you can send them through to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email them through to questions@WildEarthTV. Where's my zebra gone? There was a zebra there. The zebra is now gone. Let us attempt to find the zebra again. There he goes.
The zebra's bum.
Yes, there's a zebra. It is disappearing into the bush. There's the other zebra. Hello, boy. They spent the night sleeping right outside my house where I live. Oh, impala little lamb dashing about. I think that's one of my favorite things about impala lambs and wildebeest, actually. The wildebeest calves are also full of the joys of spring, quite literally. Now, apparently it is 23 degrees this morning, which is 73 in Fahrenheit. So quite a nice chilly start to the morning, and I say nice and chilly because we've been suffering under the blanket of a heat wave that is really, well, it's not a heat wave, it's just summer. Just summer out in the bush. It's been incredibly warm. And let me tell you something, having a cold when it's 40-something degrees outside is fairly brutal. Luckily, I'm absolutely 100% better. So thank you all for your kind words of support that I've received over the last day or so. Trying to find you your zebra again. But unfortunately, they are in very dense bush. And the impala have disappeared off as well. They've gone dancing off into the morning. Now yesterday, for those of you who missed it, James had Shadow on a impala kill. So one of the little lambs that we've been looking at this morning. And of course this weather that we've been having with the cloudy, stormy nights with plenty of wind has been perfect hunting for animals like leopards. The wind just robs everything of its senses, and with this cloud cover that Andrew's just showed you, it makes for a very dark night. And it means that nothing can see what's coming. And the impala lambs in particular, because it's their sort of first experience, they're still learning. They become very, very disoriented and quite often get separated from their mothers. But it does mean that our leopards, lions and wild dogs are well fed. I heard the Birmingham's calling at some point last night, just to the south of us. Now, many of you will have noticed, especially our regular viewers, will have noticed how we've had quite a dip, suffering the ill effects of that increase in testosterone that comes with impala lambing season. Males get a bit confused. So he's spent most of his last few days being chased around by bigger males. And as we watch this young impala ram disappearing off, I believe that Brent has found the tallest animal out here, so let's head across to him so he can say good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Safari Live. My name is Brent Smith. I have Vim, aka the wildebeest, on camera, and to the left we have a giraffe. Big male giraffe on a knobthorn tree. So a big old male. Giraffe can live for up to about 30 years. So one of the more long-lived animals out here in the bush, and you can see very dark male. Isn't that beautiful? And like a leopard, each giraffe has unique spots. His chops with delight. And now moving on to the buffalo thorn next to the knob thorn. And you can see that buildup of scar tissue, that bump on his forehead. So anyone who might be new, we are live. So you're watching this giraffe at almost the exact same time I am. And you can send us questions about what you're seeing on Safari, and you can do that by sending us an email on questions@WildEarthTV, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Wild animals and Wild Earth cameramen and presenters, but they also play domestic animals. Roger says he loves those guys, and Roger's referring to the giraffe. So especially their gait and their peculiar giraffe expressions. Giraffe are quite interesting because for a long time they were thought to be silent. This is not true. They do have a range of grunts and snorts that they use. The only time I've actually heard those grunts and snorts is when there's a lion attached or during game capture. Giraffe are one of the, what's that? Most difficult animals to catch, obviously being so tall. Oh, looks like there might be some elephants up ahead. But it's right on our boundary. We're during Big Cat Week, and that was one of the Birmingham boys on a buffalo kill that we trapped. But male leopards have been scarce, so, and after the rain, it's likely that they should start moving back to re-scent mark their boundaries. So there's always a chance we might come across Tingana or Mvula, which are the two dominant male leopards in this area. And I know Jamie's headed out in search of a female leopard this morning. So we're about to approach the waterhole. Vim and I are scanning intently, looking for any twitch of a tail or flick of an ear. Or should that be the other way around? A flick of a tail or a twitch of an ear. From Virginia must be very perceptive. He's asking whether giraffe. Oh, there's another giraffe on the far side of the waterhole, but I'm going to show you some water butt first. And then there we go, some water buck, female water buck. William was asking, do giraffe serve as sort of warning towers for the other animals and give it alarm calls to wildebeest, zebra, impala? Well, they don't do it vocally, but giraffe are incredibly good at spotting predators. And from that height, they give a long sort of stare into the grass. Quite often can be very useful for us in finding lions and leopards once they've been spotted by a giraffe. And we've got some waterbuck watching us intently. And you can see the white rings around their bottoms, which are following mechanisms for babies to follow. Where's that giraffe disappeared to, Goldie? I think its head's down and it's munching away. I can see a bit of movement behind that bush there. So there is even a huge, tall animal like a giraffe can disappear into the African bush. So if you have a look, you can you see that dark stem into the sort of slightly left-hand side of your screen. You can see the legs of the giraffe there and the tail wagging. That's a female giraffe, so not quite as big as a male giraffe. Isn't that incredible? I mean, over 1,000 kilograms and 4 meters in the air and almost completely invisible. As you can see, there's a bit more water in the Buffalo's Hook waterhole since the rain, but it is very smelly water. Still, all the little tilapia that were in here have died, and they can't deal with the water temperature over about 40 degrees Celsius. And they were making a really good meal for the storks, but that is over now, and I think they're even a bit too rotten for the storks. Hold on, Billy, we're going to jump down this. Whoa! But if we have a look carefully on the edge of the water here, you will see. There's one there. So, there we go. And you can see, surrounded by alate wings or termite or flying ant wings. And flying ants are a very bad name for the alates, because they are definitely not ants. And you can see that green gunk and mud in the dam. I definitely wouldn't be choosing this as my waterhole of choice if I was thirsty. And one would get quite ill from drinking from here if you were a human, but if you're an elephant, it'll probably be okay. So it's always good to sit quietly at this time of the morning and listen. You're going to hear alarm calls possibly, and it is the time in the morning where some of the predators are still calling. And those Birmingham boys have been very vocal to the south of our boundary. The last time I heard them was about 9 o'clock last night. Unfortunately, it didn't sound like they'd moved much, and I hear there's a Styx lioness with them, and they're busy mating. So we are going to check that southern boundary a bit later, just on the hope that they have crossed back into our area. But it is wonderful to go to bed every night and
and an attempt to edge as close as possible to the water's edge has meant that Brent has disappeared from all of your screens and you're back with me on our southern boundary, still keeping an eye out for the Birminghams because they are somewhere in this region. I heard them shouting last night. It would be very kind of them if they would deign to pay us a visit at some point, and you never know, especially on a cold, cloudy morning like this one. There's a very good chance that they're still up and about and moving. I'm hoping, however, that the presence of Shadow's kill has meant that she's going to stick around at the very least. The Birminghams, for new viewers who don't know what I'm talking about, the Birminghams are a coalition of 5 young male lions that have just come in to take over. Here we go, into Arathusa. You may or may not have been quick enough to notice that the Arathusa arrow was pointing that way. That's okay, because I know a secret way in. It's not so much secret, it's just a different road. And it's one that is part of Shadow's absolute core territory. It's a good place to start when looking about for her. Now, post-kill leopard, if you want to try and put yourself into that mind frame, what is that leopard going to do next? The answer to that usually is go and have a drink. Now, the one thing about having all of this rain means that there's a lot of puddles around and a lot of groundwater. So she probably didn't head across to the Arathusa Dam last night, which up until about a few days ago would have been the only water source. I could stand corrected on that, so if you were watching the dam camera, let me know if you saw a leopard, but I don't think she would have gone that way. Now, I know that there is a question from Ib Spoon about whether or not we've had any rain coming through. We had a little bit of drizzle last night, but it was actually the storm the night before that gave us most of the water that's come through. I know that you were just with Brent at Buffelshoek Dam, and up until just before that storm, Buffelshoek was starting to look a little bit like, well, it was just dried mud essentially, and a couple of dead fish on the side of the dam wall. They were suffering from the loss of water. We had a really nice big storm that was probably somewhere in the region of 20 to 25 mils of water overnight, which is wonderful for us since we were rejoicing at the sign of rain. And it's still sort of, there's a feeling in the air like it might still drizzle. It has very kindly, though, dropped the morning temperature down. As I hack away quietly, possibly coughing up a lung at some point, the man was wondering if there are any bush cures for colds and flu. Now, one of the sort of common symptoms of the cold is a blocked nose and a headache. I don't really have a headache, but I definitely have a blocked nose. One of the most traditional ones is to burn elephant dung and to sniff the smoke. Now, personally, I've always found that completely exacerbates the problem, but the area that I used, or the place that I used to work at, there was a guy there called Toko, who was a guide, very experienced guide, started out on fence patrol and security and worked his way up. So, very much in tune with the natural order of things in the bush. And I remember the first time I ever got a cold there, he dragged me out and forced me to sniff the elephant dung that he was burning. And I remember feeling 10 times worse, but really didn't want to tell him that because it was such a well-meaning gesture. So Toko, wherever you are, I'm sorry to say that elephant dung didn't work for me. But a lot of people have claimed that it has, so you never know, I might be somewhat unusual in that particular respect. What other colds and flu remedies are there? You could maybe use, there's a lot of painkiller effects in a lot of the bark out here. So for example, sicklebush bark, and which other bark is it? Oh, the other one that would work really well is working bark. It's meant to cure hangovers, but I'm sure it works, the same principle applies for colds. Hello? Are you here somewhere? The one thing about this particular light in the morning is that it makes it very difficult to see tracks. Question from Sharon in Pittsburgh. So Sharon, we saw those impala earlier, and they've got those black spots on the back of their legs. and those contain glands, the very strong smelling scent. Now apparently the white-tailed deer on your side of the world also have them, and that it's a very strong, let's say pungent scent to it. Impala glands don't smell all that strongly, although admittedly I wouldn't be able to smell anything right now. But you're wondering if impala are the only antelope with them. And although they're the only antelope with that really obvious black patch, although the Steenbok have a little one as well, I wouldn't be surprised if pretty much all the antelope have some form of glands, or most of the antelope have some form of glands behind them. Oh, excuse me. It's interesting to think that with that convergent evolution between deer and antelope, the fact that they've both come to that, having those glands on the back of their legs. It's okay, I promise I'll survive. I spoke a little bit about the colds and flu cure of the elephant dung, and new 11th division. You were wondering if it has to be dried or wet elephant dung. I would be very, very much impressed if you could burn wet elephant dung. It has an extremely high moisture content. So yeah, pick up an old dried piece of elephant dung. I'm laughing about it now, but as I said, there's a lot of plant material out here that works really well as a painkiller, just in the same way that aspirin's derived from willow tree bark. And the fact that the elephants eat that bark suggests that there's definitely some truth, or there's definitely potential for some truth behind the idea of burning elephant dung in order to relieve headaches and colds and flu and all of those things that us human beings suffer from. See, if I was Shadow, I would have come and had a drink in these roadside puddles. Hello, babies. Have you seen the leopard? Shame. They've all got to be on such high alert. Yes, little one. Bounce, 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 bounce. I think if I could move like an impala, I would do that all day. I'd bounce around all day. Okie dokie, well, we're going to continue our thorough search for Shadow, and in the meantime, Brent has a very large animal to show you.
So, we're with these ellies we saw at a great distance. They're right on our eastern junction of our eastern and northern boundary. And isn't this wonderful? And there we go, nice big cow and a little cow with her. And you can see from their body language that they're very relaxed with our presence. They are unfortunately... Hello. Little female to our right is the one who's doing the talking there. Oh, and again. It's amazing the sounds elephants can make. And with the new grass shooting up, you can see choosing grass over the round leaf teak. So in the summer months, elephants prefer to eat grass. In good rain years, when there's lots of grass around, it'll make up 80% of their diet during the wet season. Oof, very talkative little madam. And only 20% will be browse, and that completely changes in the dry season, where 80% is made up of branches and bark and leaves. Oh yes, you're very scary, very scary. We are in great fear of you. Sorry guys, just got to be on that Game Drive channel. Standing by, Scott. Breeding herd of Ndlov, Chillicut Line Junction, Buffelshoek. Sorry guys, I'll be back with you in a second. I'm just chatting to Scotty on the Game Drive channel. They're busy checking that southern boundary for those lion tracks. And he's just let me know he's on the southern boundary checking for tracks. Gobi, thanks very much. Let's scoot forward a skosh. Unfortunately, those eddies are moving across our boundary. Yes, you're very scary. Oh yes, I'm very frightened. I'll stop my car. There we go. You've won. Very, very cute little guy. Just making sure we know that. Oh, it's a little boy. Sorry, not a little girl. That he's the boss. And well, Julia, who's in Houston, wondering how many mammal species are there in the Greater Kruger National Park. Julia, if I remember correctly, it's around 70 odd. But you must remember that's including things like mammoth, mice, and dwarf. One of my favorite names of an animal is a tiny fat mouse. So there's lots of mammal species. I think out of large mammal species, there's probably under 20, or around 20, sorry, not under 20. And you can see they're all after the grass this morning, rather than the leaves.
Melissa McRoy. How do you spell the A of Melissa McRoy?
So, aging elephants is somewhat of an art. They're very easy to tell up to about, with cows up to about 20, 25 odd. So that big female walking there, and she's an adult female. Oh, we're being threatened again. Yes, you're very scary. You can see how close he is to me. Oops. Probably about 6 foot from the car. Yes, very scary. We're trembling. So this is really, really fun elephant behavior, and it's very common with little bulls. And then they look a bit sheepish once you don't move. Sorry, Melissa, we got sidetracked. Oh no, here we go again. Yes, you are very, very scary. And they're often only very, very, very scary when mom is around. If mom wasn't around, you have to be hurtling off towards her. And as you can see, as she moved further away, he made sure he was very scary, but closer to mom. There's mom there. And you've got to watch the adults. The adults are the cue for the rest of the herd. You can have this sort of threatening display from all the little ones, and it'll mean absolutely zero. As long as mom and the other adults are relaxed, it's more just of a sort of playing with the car rather than anything serious. So Melissa was wondering, how do you age elephants? Let's move forward while we answer that, Melissa. With females, or with all elephants, it's sort of very easy to tell up till they become fully grown. And then you can only really start telling age when they get very old. So, for example, that little guy who was threatening us there is probably between 1 year and 2 years old. We'll have another look now. So after a year, they lose their milk tusks and start developing little tushes that start coming out. But it is possible that you do have some elephants that never grow tusks. But just looking at her and the indentations on her head and stuff like that, I'd probably guess she's somewhere between 35 and 50, but probably closer to the 35 side. So, I love Three Dogs, who's watching via the YouTube, says absolutely loves spending time with little Ellies. Me too. And Brian is wondering if I've ever been charged. I have, Brian, and a lot of people call some of the charges elephants give mock charges, but in my experience there's no such thing as a mock charge. There's a warning charge and a full charge. So if you've misread the elephant behavior and you've gone too close when they don't want you around, that is when you get what was commonly referred to as a mock charge, which isn't. It's actually a warning. It's saying, listen, I'm big, I'm strong, you must go away. Pretty much exactly what that little bull was doing, except when it comes from an adult, it's a little bit more serious. And oh, look at that. Yeah, is that? It's not. It is. I've only the first European roller on camera, as far as I'm aware. I've seen one while I was driving.
No, it isn't.
And so in this right-hand Combreton, and to the left slightly, left a little bit. There we go. Okay, and a little bit more left, and up slightly. In there. Zoom. There we go. There we go. I hear Scott saw one yesterday and challenged James, but neither of them managed to get it on camera. So to Scott and James, we've got the first European roller on camera. So it's actually hawking around the elephants, taking advantage of all the insects that are disturbed by the herd of Ellies as they move through. And very fortunately, these Ellies have changed their mind and decided not to cross our boundary and continue slightly further back into our traverse area. Hello, oily fronts. So it's very important with Ellies to keep your movements very sort of slow and steady. Oh, yes, sorry. And keep your voice nice and calm. So revving engines and shouting and screaming can quite often upset a relaxed herd. And a lot of people who self-drive in Kruger, back to Brian's question on charging, think they're being charged, but they've quite often incited those charges by not understanding elephant behavior. And an elephant, by reading an elephant's body language, it'll tell you from very far away whether the herd is in a good mood or not. And one must remember that the same herd you're with today, that could be as relaxed as these guys are around us here, tomorrow might be in a horrific mood. And with their body language, it'll show, and you then know whether you should go closer or not. So we've got a question from one of our Zoomies, Blue Jay from Illinois, about the difference between African and Asian elephant. One of the notable differences is, especially since we're looking at the trunk, is that the prehensile tip on the trunks are quite different. So on an African elephant, it's got two sharp points, and it's a little bit difficult to see as she's feeding, but she's using that to feed. So it's two little sharp edges on either side, on the top and bottom of the trunk. The Asian elephant only has one. The Asian elephant is smaller, and the head shape is quite different. And I think the best way, Blue Jay, unfortunately I do not have a book that has a picture of both Asian and African elephant, is to just actually have a look online, and you can see they're very distinct differences. Their head shape is very different. The tusks generally on African elephants are more prominent, a lot more tuskless elephant in Asians. So, now what is that? I've seen something down the road and just double checking with binoculars. There's another car, don't worry about it, Jim. There's a car disappearing in the distance there. Isn't that wonderful, sort of the road that leads to nowhere but everywhere at the same time? So there's lots of wonderful roads like this in Africa, especially from the old days when there was like survey roads and tsetse fly cut lines, and they're amazing because this one actually leads to the gate, but some of them sort of just lead for hundreds of kilometers into the middle of the bush and just stop. They don't go anywhere, they just end. It's incredible.
Question from Eric. How many muscles are in an elephant's trunk? Eric on Twitter.
So we were just talking about that elephant's trunk with its prehensile tips. And Eric would like to know how many muscles are there in an elephant's trunk. Eric, if I remember correctly, there's over 800 muscles in an elephant's trunk. Look at that. Eating love grass at the moment. That's what she's after there. So the Latin name for love grass is Eragrostis, after Eros, goddess of love. I'll try to find you a piece of Eragrostis that hasn't been munched on, and you'll see the seeds are shaped like a heart. And that's where the name comes from. And there's lots of different species of Eragrostis. This is not the best Eragrostis, but this is not. So this one is not the best Eragrostis. I'll try to find you a better one. That's actually, and this is very new. So that's actually what you see on a grass. That's the seed. Now flowers, grasses have lots and lots of flowers, but they're nearly invisible. I will try to find you a better one that actually shows. So the family is Eragrostis name, but it is quite difficult to see. Well, Scott thinks he's a comedian this morning. He's just come across the radio. So there's one giant African land snail mobile south over our southern boundary. And obviously I can hear now that someone wasn't listening to the radio properly. So there's a game drive going, Scott, 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 what you got there? So the Ellies are moving off, and we've had such a wonderful view with them. I don't want to go crash and bash in the bush and unnecessarily annoy them. So we're going to head south. Look for any sign of the big cats. Okay, change of plans. I'm going to try catch up with something. I'll explain it to you a little bit later. So I'm going to have to do a bit of a Ferrari safari. And we're going to go across to Jamie while I try and get somewhere special.
And in contrast to Brent's speeding down the road, we are currently going incredibly slowly. First gear crawl to try and see if we can spot shadows. So I returned to the place where she had her kill yesterday, and there's absolutely no sign of it. What that probably means is that at some point when she was feeding, she dropped it out of the tree. Ooh, those starlings nesting in that log. Sorry, we'll return to this story of shadow in one moment. I don't want them to fly away. Look at that. And I bet you they have babies in there. Ducking its head into that hollow in the tree to feed the young ones. It was a beautiful, beautiful starling. You notice, well, if it would come back, but it appears to have disappeared off to find more food to feed growing youngsters. But you can see really nicely, if you look underneath the ear, just behind where the ear opening is, obviously they don't have external ears, but where the ear opening is a nice dark patch that you can see highlight, and that means it's a greater blue-eared starling. Oh, there we go, he's there. Coming back in. Awesome. So we found a starling nest, reaching in there to feed the youngsters. And they'll be in there for about, probably, it takes them about 19 days to go from hatching to fledging. But they'll still have plenty of time in the nest being fed by the adults. There we go, well done, Andrew. Not the clearest view, but useful for us to know that this is where the starling nest is. Being fed by mom and dad is the second starling. Looking around for a combination of both insects and seeds. Starlings are remarkably versatile creatures. Hello, you two. So, fork-tailed drongos making a racket around us. It's a wonderful time of year to go bird watching, seeing all kinds of fascinating things. Now I think that in there is probably a good spot for termites and insects. This is a perfect old and gnarled leadwood that they're nesting in, which is a wonderful nesting tree to have because it is highly resistant to termites and wood borers, so it's not likely to rot and fall down. And Molly, you missed which starling I said it was. It was the blue-eared starling, the greater blue-eared starling. And we've got three main types that we see: the Cape Glossy, the blue-eared, and then the slightly larger Birchells. And in this case, it was a blue-eared. I want to show you a picture quickly, Molly, just because the trick, they can be a bit difficult in terms of identifying the difference between blue-eared and Cape Glossy. Find the right page. The difficulty here, of course, is that we've got so many different types of starlings. There we go. There's a Cape Glossy starling, one of the common ones of that size that we see. And then if we go down just one, you can see the similarity between the two. The only difference is that darker blue, which you can only really see when the sun or the light is right, but that incredible iridescent color that they have, and just that darker patch makes it a greater blue-eared starling. Very, very tricky, and that's what their little babies are going to look like in that hole once they have fledged. So there you go, Molly. A slightly tricky lesson in starling identification. Now, Roger wants to know if these were indigenous starlings to this area, or if they are the introduced and the same ones that they get over there. Well, Roger, these are native. They are a native bird, but the starling family is absolutely enormous. So although they are native, their very common relatives that have been introduced are the Indian miners. And those in particular have been an incredibly virulent exotic species that has almost outcompeted the local species, which is why if you head across to Johannesburg, you will hardly ever see starlings. You will see Indian miners everywhere. And that's because they've been introduced and they've been incredibly successful in ousting the local species. A really, really important lesson in exotic and introduced species and how they can damage local populations. So we've got some serious birders working through their list, and apparently Mike, who's watching in Florida, has reached the point of, with that European bee eater, of 192 on the list. And I would strongly encourage all of you to start keeping a bird list. It's a really useful way of remembering all the species out here. That European roller, I believe, is Brent's first to put on live safaris of the year. Brent had the first baby impala, the first baby wildebeest. I'm going to try and get the first pygmy kingfisher so that at least we've got that over him. Now this is Shadow's favorite area. While we continue to look for wherever Shadow is hiding in the thick vegetation, to continue our bird conversation, Brian wants to know how big the starling is. Brian, it's about that big. Trying to steer and indicate size in jig is a bit of a risky mission, but it seems to be going straight. About that big. Quite a small bird, but particularly precocious. Very noisy. Oh, what is that? Where did you go? Big bird of prey. Well done, Andrew. Oh, there's two of them. It looks like a pair of African hawk eagles. Try and get another view. Well done, Andrew. The speed and skill of our cameraman never fails to astound me. I can see it sitting in the top of that tree, quite far off the road, in that log thorn that's sticking up there. Not the world's clearest view, but there is an African hawk eagle there, and a bird that you see very regularly in pairs. They hunt in pairs, so one will fly high, one will fly low, and a particularly adept raptor at catching birds. Guinea fowl go absolutely crazy whenever they see those birds in the air because they know it means serious trouble. The road does loop around in that direction, so we'll see if we get a nicer view from that side. We might be able to get a view of that hawk eagle. Let's try and find a nice patch where there's a nice clear view. And while I do that, it's definitely, there's two of them there. How wonderful. I mentioned the bird list, and 8-year-old Gracie is one of our regular viewers. Now Gracie's been keeping her bird list. Last time we spoke about it, Gracie and I, was up to 14 with a ground hornbill. Ooh, steady on, Jigger. Where are you going? Oh, there they go. Birds and live safaris. Jigger does pretty. Jigger's not appreciating this hill either. It's alright, Jigger. Jigger chased the birds. Whoops. Oh man, hill starts. There we go. Got there eventually. So we were chatting about Gracie's bird list. Gracie has very kindly shared her bird list with us, and it's getting to the impressive stage. Well done, Gracie. You're setting a very good example for all of us. Can't see it now, but it's still a tricky view. Gracie, another one for your bird list, an African hawk eagle. And Angie, just chatting about Gracie, Angie wanted to know if there's any missions for nurses around in South Africa in terms of medical cases in need. Angie, absolutely. There's a lot of opportunity here for, obviously, South Africa being a country that has some serious socio-economic problems. There's definitely always a need for it. And it's something that's always hugely valued and appreciated here. You hawk eagles are giving us the runaround. We've got a slight view there. They're probably my favorite eagle. I love that speckled chest of theirs, that pale colouring. They're the easiest to identify and always seen in pairs, unless of course Jigger chases them away, in which case you might only see one. I can see the second one, but the chances of Andrew being able to get it for you are pretty slim. They'll be keeping a very fierce eye out for things like francolins and guinea fowl. Bit ruffled and chilly in this morning air. And itchy apparently. Oh my word. Well, Cheryl and all of the rest of our viewers, Cheryl has recommended some eucalyptus oil in water and some peppermint tea and a hot stove. Never fear, I appreciate all of your messages of get better soon, but I'm definitely much better. I feel loads better. I sound worse, but I feel 10 times better. Alright, well, our hawk eagles have disappeared off and flown off on their hunting mission, and Brent has found some spotted hyena for you, so let's head across and have a look.
Spotted hyena. 3, 2, 1, you're live.
So we've rushed to the hyena den, where we have found one adult sleeping outside the den. It looks like it could be mom. We can't see the left hand back leg where there's a very distinct scar. Right hand back leg where there's a distinct scar. But we heard from one of the guys to the north of us, north of our boundary, that there were 2 hyenas running towards the den with meat in their mouths. We made our way here as fast as possible. They either haven't arrived or they decided to eat that meat before coming to the den. Just the one adult. And it looks like the mother of the little cub. The little cub is obviously having a sleep in this morning and is still in the den. And we were chatting a little bit about those biting flies, those stable flies earlier. And you can see that hyena's ears are quite tatty and are flicking overtime to try to keep those flies off. And those are the flies that bite us quite regularly. Okay, you can see the feet, the pads so nicely on the feet. Shame, that little bit of rain and then a couple of hot days just exploded their fly population. So all of us, from hyenas to cameramen, are being bitten by the flies at the moment for long periods of time. All your parasitic biting insects are going to be worse. Fortunately, in the vehicles we are not quite at flea jumping range, otherwise I'm sure they would come after us as well. Oh, here we go. Definitely been feeding. Here comes one of the other hyenas, but not carrying any meat, but you see that dark dirty face. Definitely been stuck into some meat this morning. Here comes some greeting. Oh, we know who's dominant now. running off behind the vehicle. She's chasing it actually far away, unfortunately. Oh dear, there goes my radio as well. That's very interesting. So the female who was here was definitely more dominant than the one that arrived. So it looks like Liam and I our guess when we heard about those hyenas heading south from our northern boundary came right. She's chased that. Liam, you see any hyenas?
Yeah,
right in front of us. Liam's obviously got better eyesight than me. Whoopsie. You still see?
Last now at about 2 o'clock, the last sighting.
Last sighting about 2 o'clock. There we go. So we're just going to stay here just so we can see around us. And that looks like the one that was chased coming back. So where we position ourselves is we can move around. You can definitely see that hyena is dirty and quite manky, and looks like it's been feeding. Oh, there's a whoop. Oh, there's another one coming in. This one also dirty and manky. Nice greeting behavior going on. And you can see the one closest to us showing a bit of submission. See how it's trying to keep itself lower than the other one. There we go. So I'm trying to figure out who's mom and who's not. I don't think either of these are mom. Oh no, it could be. Here comes another hyena. That was the one that was calling off in the distance. And it looks like the one, yes, that was... Oh, it's another dirty hyena. Now, this is very interesting. Oh, listen to that. Oh, yeah, there's a... So that behavior says that these two are very similarly ranked. And here comes a little... one of the little cubs, the sub-adults, to join in the greeting. Let's see if there's any more behind us. Difficult to see. Oh! Running. Oh, behavior around these den sites is just absolutely fascinating. Just going to move back a little bit. Oh, coming in at high speed behind us. They're just being in the worst places possible at the moment. As in directly behind the camera. Try to get us in a position where we can cover as much space as possible. How's that, Jim? Let's go. That's about the best we got at the moment. So, George Irons just sent through a picture of the mother. Her ears are not tattered yet. Oh, there's something nice and smelly there to roll in. there. She's found something to roll in. And there was a hyena on its way here with meat, and it's one of these that look like they've been feeding, and it's possible that hyena has hidden the meat on the way in a puddle. They cache meat quite regularly to keep it from the other hyenas. And the reason they cache it in the water is so the other hyenas can't smell. So Brian is wondering how big is a hyena compared to a human. I'll get to it now. Let's just see what's happening here. I can't see that distinct scar on that hyena, so I don't think that's mom. So we've lost sight of all hyenas at the moment. Just having a look around. It's very interesting, that little bit of behavior that happened. I can't see the cub. Oh, is she coming back? Oh, right next to us. More coming in. Oh.
That's one of the twins, or is that the latest one, or the black cub?
So there's 3 sub-adults, about the same age as that one who's just anal pasted on a piece of grass. Okay, we're going to move around. Looks like they're settling in front of the other side of the den. Are we getting a visitor first? Nope, changed its mind, going back. So there were 3 adults and this cub. At the moment we only can see 2 adults and that sub-adult. Oh, and now 1 adult is walking away. And it looks like that adult female, the one lying in front of the den when we arrived, has gone back to lying in the exact same place. So with our aerial, we've got to be quite careful where we maneuver through the bush here. So here are the 2 adults now. The same big female who was lying in the, she's sort of gone back to her spot. Scratch, scratch, scratch. You can see a very distinct notch missing out of her ear. And this is the most dominant animal that's around at the moment. And here comes the cub coming in from the right. This is probably, that one's probably about 6-7 months old. But the mother of the young cub doesn't seem to be present. And I think most of the action here is now over. Oh no, they're going to keep me moving around. So Brian, how big is a hyena in comparison to a person? So it's, from a height point of view, it's roughly the size of a very big mastiff, or probably slightly shorter than a Great Dane, but from a weight point of view, far bigger. A big female hyena without a full belly averages around 70 kilograms. But in Botswana, when I was working with the African Predator Conservation Research Organization, we weighed one, but she did have a very full belly full of hippo that we darted at just over 90 kilograms. So around 200 pounds. Oh, listen to that. Now, that'd be very interesting if it's not the mother trying to call the cub out. Or maybe mom's ears have got tattered in the last little while. The fact that the little cub is not popping its head out means it's probably not mom. It's going to call down a different hole that's under that bush. So this den's got multiple entrances and exits. Hey guys, good to be on the radio for a second. Standing by yours. Copy, thanks very much, yours. And Nisi Kaya is active on Gallagher Shortcut. Those two you saw earlier arrived about 5 minutes ago. Negative, you could see they were dirty and been feeding, but they didn't have any nyama with them. So it's one of those difficult ones now, because she's still lying under that bush, but we can't really see her. The others have moved off. So now, and to quote the Clash, should we stay or should we go? I think we can stay for a little bit longer, just in case something else happens. But she seems to have settled under that bush and just make out her leg. There you can just see that body lying there, and we're talking about that they were seen with meat running towards this direction, and D-Man is wondering, do they regurgitate meat for each other? They don't. Wild dog do that quite regularly, but hyenas don't. They'll cache meat and hide it in places to try to keep it away from other hyenas. And hyenas will only really gather around a carcass together if it's quite a big carcass. If it's a small carcass, they'll try to keep it to themselves. Oh, there we go. So we're sitting at this wonderful hyena den, and Bruce in Pennsylvania is wondering, do the same hyenas go back to the same dens when they're expecting cubs? They do, Bruce, and they all use multiple den sites. I mean, we know for a fact of 6 or 7 different dens that have been used by this clan, and they move dens depending on parasites. Oh, what's going on? Out of the bush and around the back. So fleas being the biggest problem, and when the flea infestations get very big, and that's when they'll move dens. But all the dens will be within the sort of the center or the core of their territory, not near the peripheries. Obviously, in terms of competition from other hyena, it'll be the safest place for them. And that female has just disappeared off into the bush, just that sub-adult here at the moment. Let's see what it's up to. So we got a question from Monkey Man. It's a very interesting handle, Monkey Man, on YouTube, who want to know what would happen if a buffalo or rhino came to the den. The hyenas would probably just ignore it and wait for them to move past. They wouldn't any fanfare about it. The only thing that, from other stuff, wild dog and leopard and cheetah, they would attack and chase. Lions, depending on the scenario, they would also attack and chase, unless there was a male lion. Hyenas would hide from male lions. Male lions and are the only animal I'd say a hyena has the utmost respect for. And I actually saw a male lion regularly when I lived in Botswana, and he had such a hatred of hyenas. He actually used to hunt them and stalk them. I watched him stalk a hyena for like 200 meters before killing it. And it's very strange. I always wondered, did that male lion, when he was a cub or when he was a sub-adult, have really bad experiences with hyenas that causes him to have this sort of absolute hatred for them. And the one morning, actually, we went out and drive, and literally in a space of about half a kilometer, there were 4 dead hyenas that this male lion had killed. And that clan of hyenas, on the other hand, was incredibly large. It's the biggest clan I've ever seen, estimated by the researchers to be between 90 and 120 animals in that one clan. And they used to hunt hippo and buffalo by themselves. But it looks like everyone's gone to sleep or gone away. So we're going to do the same and see what else is happening in this area. See if we can go find a leopard or lion or anything. So while we're moving out of here, Siberia would like to know, how often do venomous snakes take refuge in hyena dens and kill cubs? I would say very seldom, Siberia. So the snakes would use the dens at different times to the hyenas, and it's not impossible that they might be in there at the same time, but it's unlikely. And speaking of what kills hyena cubs, strangely, one of the more peculiar predators of both hyena, lion and leopard cubs when the adults are not present is a snake. And a python could sneak in there and devour very young cubs that were still in the den. I have seen a python that's eaten 3 leopard cubs and is sitting before the mother got back and actually killed and ate the python. Oh, there we go. Well, wasn't that fascinating? We managed to get to the den at just the right time, and I think let's go have a look at what's happening in the northwestern corner. So as we're moving away, Ben, who's 14 years old, morning Ben, nice to have you with us on the back of the vehicle. Ben said, so if it's not the mother who calls, the cub won't come out. While they're very young, that is true, Ben, so there's a possibility there could be a hierarchical shift on that might be a little female and one of the other females doesn't want another high-ranking female in there. So normally they won't come out until they're a bit older and from in that den. So while they're still black, unless mom calls, they'll stay under. But as they start getting towards sort of 3 months, even if mom's not there, they might be around and out the den by themselves. But it is interesting, and I think out of all the animals we see regularly and all the research that's been done, I would say hyenas are possibly the social interactions and actual social structure and hierarchy of hyenas is probably the one we know the least about. And I think, like with a lot of animals, it might vary from area to area. They are absolutely fascinating creatures. Got a bad rap in The Lion King, so we do our best here at Safari Live to give them a good rap. But while we continue on to go see what else we can find, let's go see what Jamie's been up to.
Now, Jamie's largely been coughing and spluttering whilst attempting to search for Miss Shadow. Now, those spotted bundles of mischief with the bad reputation, I think are largely probably responsible for the absence of Shadow this morning. The kill is gone from the tree. It probably fell down while she was feeding on it last night and got munched by a hyena. Now, we've had some wonderful moments, including that incredible time with Peter Pretorius and the interaction with Shadow and those hyenas. She did manage to hoist her kill, which is nice and somewhat unusual for Shadow. She has a tendency to consume on the ground. That being said, an impala lamb is not really a huge meal for a leopard, and she was probably well on her way to having finished it. I don't think she lost out too much. But now it's just a matter of guessing where she's come from here. I've checked south. The next mission is to check north, but before we do that, let's check in the gosling family that are looking absolutely enormous. Here we go, we've got our family of now almost adult goslings at the Arathusa Dam. Now, a couple of months ago, this was one of the only water sources out here, and the fact that this pair of geese managed to raise such a large brood, I think it was 7 of them in total that they managed to get to the sub-adult age, is testament to their skill as parents, particularly since this was the only water hole around here. And Melissa McRoy, you were... oh, are those wattle starlings? Sorry, just to completely change tack all around in this bush in front of us. Let's try and get a little bit closer. So that might be a new one for many of you on your bird list. And then, Melissa, I promise I'll get to your question about water holes in a moment. Let's see if we can get these guys. No, don't go. Don't go. No, come back. Oh, man, birds and live safaris. There you go, wattled starlings. Something that many of you, unless you're absolutely regularly watching, many of you may not have seen them before. Having... awesome! Looking for the male with his big yellow wattles. I think he's on the right there. There's also a weaver as well in the front. That bright yellow. Little southern mask, but those are the birds I wanted to show you. Wattled starlings. There's one with a wattle, that clear bright yellow color. Yay! Thank you, starlings, for actually cooperating. Very well done. Beautiful. You can see the clear contrast between the male on the left and the 2 females on the right. And they often congregate together in big flocks. Noisy little creatures. How cool are they? Something different for your bird list. Wattled starling. Obviously named because of the wattles underneath the chin of the male. And they live together in cooperative breeding groups, which then combine, because obviously safety in numbers is a big thing out here. Come on, guys, come closer. I'm scared to move any closer in case they disappear off. The bird life is always one of the trickiest things to capture on camera. There you can see the wattles underneath the chin of the male. So cool. I'm not sure why it is that we don't see them as often as we see the other starlings, because you see them fairly regularly in Kruger. Oh. And off together in a brilliant flock. Somebody please help me, because it's driving me insane. the flight pattern where they all move together like this, and something you see in birds like quelea and starlings. You also see it in fish, that incredible, well-coordinated, well done, Andrew, that well-coordinated moving in unison. There is a name for that motion and the description of it, and it's driving me insane because I should know it, and I do know it. It's just somewhere locked in the back of my brain. The name for that motion where they all move together. Fish do it, birds do it, and all that I can think of is Brownian motion, which is not what we're looking for at all. So if you can help me out with that, please help jog my memory, because it's one of those things now where I'm desperately going to be thinking about it in the back of my head the entire time.
It's similar to synchronize.
Yes, it's the synchronicity. Is that even a word? Is synchronicity a word? The synchronization is the word I'm looking for. It has a name, and it's going to drive me insane. Andrew, you know what I mean?
Yes, I know.
Andrew knows what I mean, but neither of us can think of it. Yes. Please help me. Now we've been shifting around the Arathusa waterhole in order to check for shadow in case she came around here. But Joe, you were wondering if big cats ever ambush around waterholes, and absolutely they do. And my answer's kind of going to tie into Melissa McGroy's question about how many waterholes we have here. So during the winter months are actually probably, or the driest months, are probably the best time for big cats, and they do ambush around waterholes because that is where all of the game is forced around. And because they have to come to the waterhole, it's the perfect place for big cats to hang out because they've got access to water and they've got access to prey, which is why it's always worth checking around here. Now, at the driest time of year, Melissa, on Arathusa, that dam is the only water source in Arathusa. And for Djuma, Buffelshoek Dam and the Djuma Pan were pretty much the only water sources at our driest time of year. So you're looking at about 3 permanent sources in our... What was that? That was beautiful. Got another bird to show you, but I have to just find it. Finish answering that question. So during that time of year, actually finding animals... Ooh, it's flown away. It has disappeared. I think I saw a red-headed weaver, which I know was on a couple of people's wish lists to see. Keep an eye out for them. So it's a nice time of year, it's convenient, everything kind of hangs out around the water holes. But at the moment, after the big rains, not that I'm complaining of course, because it's exactly what we needed, and the water holes were starting to get very stagnant and very low, but because of the big rains there are puddles everywhere. There are mud wallows everywhere. So at this point, first of all, the big cats have to work harder to go and find their prey, because the prey doesn't have to come to the waterhole, which means in turn that sometimes we have to work a little bit harder in order to find them, because they're not hanging out in regular spots. But yes, dry seasons and waterholes are a good combination. We have a new viewer who has stumbled across our show. So, to Anonymous Unknown, I apologize for not being able to give you a more descriptive title, but please feel free to continue sending through questions as well as your name and where you are from. But to Anonymous Unknown, who is joining us for the first time, a big warm welcome, or slightly cold chilly welcome, because the weather's a bit cold. We are in the Sabi Sands, which is part of the Greater Kruger area in South Africa. So the sort of which direction is that? Northeastern corner of South Africa. One of the largest definitely the largest wildlife area, protected wildlife area in South Africa, and one of the largest in Africa. An extraordinary place that has been wild and free for the last 100 or so years. And don't forget that we are live, so what you're seeing is happening right here, right now, which means you never know what to expect or what you're going to get, including these Nyala that are hiding. And the reason I've stopped, not only just because they're pretty, but because that Nyala lamb is incredibly pale in color. Come on, mummy, move. There we go. Interesting. That is probably the lightest Nyala I have ever seen. It's almost gold in color. That's very rare. You don't often get to see that. Sorry, excuse my hacking away. The problem with being live, of course, is that you can't really get away with the odd sniff or coughing. I'm trying to get another view of this because this is incredible. I've never seen an Nyala that color. Hello, gorgeous. You're very unusual. It's very difficult to clearly demonstrate it in this light, but it's a good couple of shades, and you do get variation in color. You get golden wildebeest every now and again, black impala every now and again. It's quite rare though, unless it's been selectively bred for. So what you're seeing, even though it is very much tucked away in the bushes, is quite unique. I've never seen an Nyala this color. Awesome. Sorry. I'm sure you'd rather have the bush sounds other than my relentless hacking away. Hello, gorgeous. For new viewers, this is a Nyala. Nyala. And the females and the males are so different. This is a group of females, but the males are basically dark stony grey in colour, much larger and fluffier with serious horns on the top of their head. But probably one of the prettiest antelope that we get out here. That fluffy tail. It really, I think Nikki's just put her finger on it perfectly. It almost looks like there's a ray of sun shining on it, even though there isn't, because the sun hasn't made an appearance this morning. Don't disappear. I want to look at you some more. Really cool. Hello, Matthew Mayo. Matthew Mayo is also new. It's wonderful to have you. A big warm welcome to all the new viewers and our regular viewers as well. Oh, little Nyala, you're not playing nice. Come back.